Renyon's caller walks around, and the system tells him that the entity Baron realized that he had absorbed the cosmic tension. Baron comes and breaks his lock and leaves lest he feel disappointed. As soon as he left, Hyun exploded, raising the burning medium. When Baron said about him, he hits the system screen asking what is happening and asks him for an explanation. He tells him that the lock has been lifted and explains, saying that the entities are beings that have absolute control over their land somewhere in space. These entities put their absolute power into the Shana. They do this in the hope that their relatives will use this power to become rulers and expand their light. He asks why they care about him. He tells him that he is one of the Shadas, and because of this they wish for him to become one of their relatives. He wonders, what does he mean by Shadaya? To remember the stone that Rannon found, which was not the stone of Uda, but rather a cosmic fragment. He hears voices from behind him, so he turns around and sees an intense light from which these entities are made. The regime recognizes them. Yellow is the whispering entity Monchel, which sends magic to deceive everyone. Orange is the invading entity Jordan, which offers to control the army. Of steel and fire, the pink is the hungry entity Ugolmi, who asks to accompany him in search of the snake that swallowed the entire previous world. The blue is the shattered entity Ghoul, who offers a world behind the screens to control. The green is the wailing entity, asking him about how he is suddenly asked to make a choice when he does not know anything about them. We begin with the destroyed entity, an ogre, an absolute ruler, laughing about a plan he has hatched. He rules the masses with daggers, poison, and conspiracies from behind the screen, and acts secretly in the shadows and through secret organizations. The hungry, wailing entity, Ugolmi, the snake of greed and desires. The citizens of his land suffer from constant hunger, and he wishes to swallow everything in this world. The whispering entity, Moon. Strahl incites in the light and deceives in the dark. She shines in the brightest places. She can trick any powerful being into kneeling at her feet. The invading entity Jordan, the loser, who advances with fire and slaughters his enemies with steel, wants to burn the world with meaningless hatred and resentment, and will be content to judge only in ashes. He asks why they do everything. These things make it seem that they suffer from personality disorders. He tells him that entities only care about those who resemble them. He asks if what he was saying about him is that he has a conspiratorial nature and personality disorders, and that he is greedy and seeks attention and has intermittent explosive disorders, and a questioner screams if the reason for his falling into hell is that he is a bad person. Is he? Garbage. Any way he looks at it, he wakes up from this, saying that he is not like that. He has not lived a life that is embarrassment, or perhaps he did not know this, but he is still better than these people. He tells them that there is something that arouses his curiosity, and asks them what will change if he chooses. An ogre approaches him and gives him a vision of what will happen in the future. If someone chooses to be shocked by the power of these entities, the system asks him to choose an entity to follow. He says to himself that it is impossible for them to give him something this good for free. He asks if there is a price he must pay. The system tells him that he served him and followed the entity. He asks if this is all that the beings tell him. They raise their relatives, who will act as their agent, and that's all. He asks him if he has to choose now. The system thinks and then says that choosing an entity is a rare opportunity, and when you apply and pass the test, his growth will become much faster. He says that this means that he will not be able to get anything now. He tells him that the entities feel dissatisfied with him. His arrogance is surprised by their sharp reaction. He says that getting power for free is a good thing, but they were the ones who came to him, not the other way around. He saw them for the first time today, and here they are asking him to choose, and there is nothing he can trust and no contract. Even a used car dealer would not be so impulsive. He loses. The invading entity wants attention and leaves. He tells him to leave if he wants. The system tells him that the entities will give him time to think. He smiles at them in thanks, and the mirage begins to disintegrate. We see that the whispering entity is still there. He asks why this is here. She approaches him and stings him and then leaves. The system tells him that the whispering entity monster has awakened a part of him. His abilities are a legendary skill. Domination. He says that she gave him a very large bribe. He says that the matter of these entities is strange, and they can give him legendary skills. So why couldn't they prevent the difficulty of hell level? Then he says that there must be other people who caught their attention. Then he thinks, saying that if this is a level that the ability users would not be able to ban. So it is possible that these beings created hell, and it seems that he will have to learn more about these entities. Do not filter out hunters and newbies, and this matter is completely chaotic. He asks him if there are hunters here as well. He confirms this, since the Taesung Guild announced that they will start open recruitment. Everyone gathered here. He asks him if he is here for open recruitment. He answers. He says that it will be difficult for him, and he is here just to update his recorded level. He continues, saying that his level is something that only he knows, and having the capacity user's office evaluate his abilities and recognize them will increase his value among others. He says and it is the same that your level determines your value, and that it is normal for people to be obsessed with this as this will increase their power, but if this happens, they can gain some power. He continues, saying that if someone does something that attracts attention, they will be able to pay attention to him immediately. He says that he just needs to do a quick test and move up. In the ranks, before he is caught, the next group advances in line to begin the ability assessment with 3 tests: the identity test, the statistics test, and the skills test. The identity test is just a formality, so most people pass it without problems. The statistics test is an examination that will be completed once you put your blood on the test paper, and the last examination will be the skill test. Simply put, it will be an assessment of combat capabilities, and ordinary men are expected to score 100, but they can still evaluate the numbers on behalf of that. It does not matter if they are above or below a percent. He enters his hand into the device. He said that just having stats does not necessarily mean that the hunter is good, so they do not care. Really with the numbers, he tells him that there is a glass ball inside and asks him to hold it. He puts his hand in until he reaches it, and when he holds it, there is a sound of something breaking. Those with abilities into 3 rows, those with attack skills, those with defense skills, and those with reinforcement skills, and those with ambiguous skills. Hyun stands, not knowing where to go, and then decides to go to those with ambiguous abilities. She asks him if his ability is ambiguous. He says that he does not know, and it seems that they tested the ability of his poisonous blood. She asks him if he will submit to the hunter's test, and he answers her with a certainty. She says that she will give him a leaflet of information, and this test will be different from the others, since it happened in cooperation with the Tyson Syndicate. She may seem pessimistic, but it may seem wonderful that he becomes a hunter, but it is possible. For the few who make money to be harmed or even to die, and because things do not go as they should with the rest, they will be forced to do other work. He says that he does not do this for the money. You ask him if it is for fame or for power. He says that he felt his duty to protect humanity. They do not know what might happen in the future and how difficult it will be for them to deal with the corridors. She gives them a file containing his certificate as a fisherman and some information about hallucinations and other papers. She advises him to read all of this. It will be of help to him. He says that he is curious to know what kind of corridors this is. Outside the building we see a bodyguard on one of the cars opening the door of this car for him to get out of it. Lee Ji-tae, asking if everything is ready, tells him that the Red Butterfly group is ready, and they have already arrived, and it seems that there are many guilds targeting them, but there is nothing to worry about. In the end, they will compete with them, and the Taesha Guild will be their target. He tells him that their target will be the Northern Expedition, not Taesung, and continues, saying that the owners of these talents have ignored recommendations to enter any other guilds until now, but as soon as they heard about the Northern Guild's campaign, he all came forward, saying that if it were the Red Butterfly, they would have been able to apply to him and they would be accepted. He then asks him about the newcomers, telling him that they are all 20 levels below the red butterfly, and there they are. Only one person has a strange skill. Li Jitae is amazed at what he heard. The guard continues, saying that he has the skill of bloodless blood. He shows him a video of the first test to know how toxic his blood is. He says that his skill is impressive, but it contains many negatives. If a little of his blood spills, this will harm his colleagues, so he will put it aside for a while. Later, we go to the door of the vestibule, where Hyun and the rest of his team were. One of the workers calls him and gives him a stone. Then he leaves, asking him what this is, and he surprises him. He runs away. The test begins and the gates open for all the teams to enter. They are welcome to the test to determine their capabilities. In the vestibule of the third indoor stadium, we watch that League T. They will watch everything that happens in this place, which has been edited to look like it should be 2 stars in Ukraine. The voice explains the purpose of the test, which is to collect the stones that were given to them when they entered. For the next 3 hours, they will have to test the vestibule.